Howard Jackson was a careful man. He had to have gotten away with his 27 murders to date. Today, he was hoping to add number 28 to the tally. The young man sitting alone at the table in the service station diner looked a promising candidate. Howard estimated him to be in his late teens, or at most his early 20s. He doubted if the young man had enough money for another coffee, having watched him nurse the one he had for over an hour. It wouldn't be long before one of the staff insisted he bought another or be on his way. With the rain now pelting down outside, Howard was optimistic, knowing the weary hitchhiker wouldn't relish the prospect of walking however far to the next rest stop. He had a knack for spotting the most vulnerable and trusting ones. "Another coffee or something?" Howard asked, having strolled over to the young man. "They'll be asking you to leave otherwise," he added by way of reassurance. Oh, right. Yeah, thanks, mister." This was going to be so easy, Howard thought to himself. "So, how far are you going? I'm driving south if that's any help." "Yeah, sure would be, and thanks for the coffee too. I was dreading having to start walking in this weather to wherever the next truck stop is." Howard and the young man drank up and made their way to Howard's car in the customer parking lot. "Grab yourself a candy bar or a soda from the glove compartment if you want." "A soda would be good. And you? You having one too?" "Nah, I'm good, thanks. I had enough in the diner." With the rain at full pelt, Howard was driving slower than he usually would. The young man continued to sip at his soda. An hour into the journey, the young man looked like he was nodding off. Howard pulled into a lay-by, confident the sedative had done its job. Howard had long since discovered strangers were more ready to accept food and drink from a stranger in their car if it was in a sealed container or wrapper, like a soda can or candy bar. The screw-cap soda cans were of his own design, practically indistinguishable from the real thing, and the candy bars had been injected with a liberal dose of etorphine, a powerful animal tranquilizer. Administering it via a soda or a candy bar reduced the speed with which it took effect. Still, it was a safer alternative to risking the recipient putting up a fight if Howard failed to inject the drug at the first attempt. Howard hadn't forgotten the one that got away. His only failure some 6 years previous, when the 16-year-old intended victim hadn't accepted either the soda or a candy bar, and escaped after managing to block Howard's etorphine-filled syringe with his rucksack. From that day on, Howard made it a rule not to proceed if the victim didn't accept one of the drug-filled sodas or candy bars first. With his intended victim seemingly fast asleep, Howard got out of his car to retrieve specific items from the trunk: a length of rope cord, some industrial-strength duct tape, and a surgical scalpel. As expected, the young man still appeared completely out of it. Etorphine was 1,000 times more potent than even morphine. With that in mind, Howard felt quite confident it was safe to proceed. He intended to strip his victim naked and then use the rope and duct tape to fully restrain and gag him. And then there would be Howard's favorite part: a brutal assault and mutilation of the vilest kind of the victim's soon-to-be lifeless body. First, though, he reached down to begin unbuckling the young man's jeans. What followed was most definitely not part of the plan that had succeeded on the 27 previous occasions. "Not this time, motherfucker," the young man said, ramming a solid uppercut under Howard's chin before dragging him out through the adjacent car door. Though not as effective as Howard's etorphine-filled soda can, not that the young man had actually drunk any of it. The uppercut had stunned his would-be killer sufficiently for the young man to quickly bind and gag the weaker and older Howard with the minimum of fuss or resistance. Oddly, The tone of his voice wasn't loud, angry, or the outraged sort you might expect from someone unexpectedly finding themselves in that situation. If anything, it was eerily calm and controlled, much like the way he went about slitting Howard's throat before dumping his body in the trunk of the would-be killer's own car, sending both to a watery grave several hours' drive later. Oh, he'd been careful all right, but not quite careful enough. It never occurred to Howard that someone else might have similar thoughts on their mind and the same obsession with not getting caught. After all, what were the odds of a highway-driving serial killer picking up his opposite number among the waves and strays of the hitchhikers? The 22-year-old young man had been killing the likes of Howard along the highway from the age of 17, barely a year after hitching his first ride at the tender age of 16. It was Howard's attempt at adding the young man to his tally of victims 6 years before that had set the young hitchhiker on his path of seeking out and slaughtering men like Howard. Howard's fate had been sealed the moment he'd been recognized in the diner by the one that got away.